Welcome everybody to our 29th Live Learn Lunch. It's fantastic to see you all here today. We're very excited about today's session, and I'm going to hand you over in a couple of moments to Nemo, who's going to take us through a presentation around authentic career fulfillment, and it's going to be a really engaging and entertaining session. Couple of things I do need to make you aware of before we do go through today's session. We are going to be asking for some volunteers to get involved today. So at some point today, at the moment you are all muted, but at some point today, if you do want to get involved and be a volunteer, I will ask you to let me know. You can do that via the chat. And then when you do that, I will unmute you and you'll have an opportunity to interact with Nemo. Because of that, I really need to reiterate to you that we will be recording today's session as we always do. So do please think about the fact that if you are volunteering and you're sharing information, that we will be popping that up on the YouTube channel later. As I've said, this is our 29th Live Learn Lunch. We do have some more sessions coming up from Nemo over the coming weeks, one of which will be around values in action and another one will be around picking a winning career path. So there's lots more to come. And we have other topics coming up as well around first aid, virtual first aid, which is next week. That's going to be interactive and we're going to need you to actually get involved and do some preparation and bring some things with you. But if you enroll, we'll get back to you on that. We've also got some sessions coming up on returning to work for career mums, a session on fitness and some sessions on CPD through change. So lots coming up, but that's all in the future. Right now, I would like to hand you over to Nemo, who is our facilitator today. So welcome, Nemo.
Hello everyone, thank you Helen. It's great that so many of you are here. I really appreciate you joining me for this lunchtime session. And it's a really exciting topic for me, all about career fulfillment. And in times when I think it's even more important than ever, you know, we see how the impact of COVID is having on people losing their jobs and the whole world going upside down. Lots of us are scratching our heads about what we're supposed to do at the moment. And so this kind of work is a chance to look at techniques and tools that will help people to align with their values and their strengths towards careers that can be really fulfilling. And I also hope can make a big difference in times when there's lots that we absolutely need to be doing to, you know, work on things in our countries and globally. So big topic, and really good to be with you all. So I'll give you a bit of an overview of today, and then we'll get more into the content that I want to share. I'll just flip on to the next slide if my thing's going to work. So just wanted to introduce myself. First, I'm a qualified coach with the International Coach Federation, which is the longest running and largest organization that supports coaches in the whole world. And I've been coaching for 5 years. And I particularly enjoy helping, as I said earlier, helping people connect with their strengths and their uniqueness to be, you know, more effective, more fulfilled, and make a bigger impact in the world. And I have a sort of vision that I'm working on at the moment, which is about basically making things better for everyone and prospering themselves using their unique style and strengths. And today I really want to catalyze people's sense of personal agency, like I've said, in these challenging times. So that the content I'm sharing is hopefully going to kind of enable you perhaps individually and also in the work you do with clients. As well as coaching, I offer facilitation and action learning sessions, and I also have a unique offer around working with pairs of co-founders or teams of 2. In other parts of my life, I have released an album of music in 2011 and have some experience of self-publishing books. So going on to today, this is the first in 3. Today's content is all about authentic happiness, coming from the world of positive psychology, and so particularly a framework that I find really useful in my coaching I want to share with you. In a few weeks, we'll be looking at values in action, which is a fantastic tool and framework that I use again a lot in coaching. And finally, towards, in October, we'll be looking at the career sweet spot, which brings together a lot of these elements and helps you to kind of really find that bullseye, if you like, in terms of your skills, strengths, what the world needs, and what you can make money from. So that's the sort of three webinars I'm going to be offering here. Oh, just before I mention this stuff about authentic happiness, I do want to emphasize this is my intention to make it interactive. You're all very welcome here, and I know that there'll be so much experience and knowledge in this large group of people that have joined the call. So there'll be time where I'd like you to add your thoughts in the chat box, and as Helen said, opportunity to volunteer later. First part of the session, I'll be telling you this theory about authentic happiness, and then we'll have a look at how that might show up in some of your experience. Towards the end, there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers. So do note your questions as you go, so that we can have a go at those later. And I will share some resources and make sure that you can get the slides after today. So with all that said, I'm going to just mention authentic happiness now and where it comes from, and a little bit that will line us up for the rest of it. So Dr. Martin Seligman is spoken of as one of the founders of the positive psychology movement. And he's a faculty leader at the University of Pennsylvania, author of books like Authentic Happiness, and they have a website too. There's a fantastic TED Talk, which you might want to watch after this if you're interested in the content today. It's really a scientific study of how strengths and virtues enable individuals and communities to thrive. So they do lots of research around happiness to find out, what it is, what are the elements of it. And I'm drawing from some of those today. So the three areas that I wanted to highlight to you are, if you like, three types of happiness. There's the pleasant life, the engaged life, and the meaningful life. And in terms of what the differences are, and we're going to have a look at that and how important they are in terms of this overall sense of happiness. So pleasant life is all about pleasure, positive emotion, things like having a nice house, a nice car, eating nice food, going on nice holidays and things like that. The engaged life is where you have this experience of getting lost in what you do, in a sense, what they call flow. So for an engaged lifestyle, you would have lots of flow in it. And this is typically experienced by maybe people who are into things like art, who may be artists, or, people that have interests that they can really, crafts, or just anything, writers, anything that you can really sort of almost lose track of time. There's almost no emotion there. You're just completely absorbed in the moment. And so that's what's the quality of a so-called engaged life. And the final one there, meaningful life, is where you're connected with something that seems important, that's actually greater than yourself. Sometimes, you might hear people talk about what's your purpose. So it's finding something that's really important in the world that you can connect to. And so just to bring these to life, for me, one of my areas of engagement and flow is I love learning. And so for me to deliver webinars like this today is a flow state for me. I'm just so into kind of sharing information, understanding it, trying to make use of it. So this is a flow type activity. So whenever I do work where I'm, designing learning content or actually helping people understand things, I'm getting lots of engagement. And for me, meaning comes in, I think, around what I do as a coach. Like, I really strongly feel drawn to help people reach their potential and overcome things that are in the way, when they may be, for whatever reason, not able to do the things that they're capable of. And I find it so rewarding to sort of help people to overcome challenges and reach their potential. So that's like meaning for me. So when I'm doing coaching and work like sharing information about coaching, it's a real sweet spot for me in terms of engagement and meaning. And And so I'm going to ask you a little question now, and this is where I need your help, Helen, with the poll. So you've all heard about the 3 aspects of happiness. Oh, hang on, let me just get the next slide up. So this is a question for you all. Which one contributes most to life satisfaction? Pleasure, engagement, or meaning? I can see that the meaning answers are streaming ahead here. There's a bit of a head-to-head with pleasure and engagement, and we've got about 30 answers. So I think that's most of you. Okay, so I'll share the results just to show you oh yeah, Helen's done it, I think, yeah. You can see there that most of you think meaning is the most significant factor contributing to life satisfaction, followed by an even Stevens between pleasure and engagement. Well, thanks for your answers. And the research shows, I'm going to stop this now. Can we stop that? I'll just take that off the screen. The research actually shows that the top scoring, you were right, folks, on general, is meaning. And they did this test of 15 repetitions with thousands of people, and they asked them questions to find out which one contributed most to life satisfaction. They did indeed find that meaning was the top score. They then found very closely followed by engagement, so people that had flow in their life. And pleasure alone by itself didn't seem to have any lasting impact on life satisfaction. But what they did find was that there's this interaction between the two. So if you can get meaning and engagement, the pleasure becomes like the cherry on top, and it really is important. But it's on its own, it doesn't seem to have any like lasting sort of contribution to life satisfaction. And there's a lot more in the TED Talks and the books and things if you want to dig into what's behind that. So well done for the getting the right answer there. And I would just like to mention a little bit more about what this means for us in our careers to get these fulfilling and successful careers. And it's something like this. If you can apply your strengths, which, just to put in parenthesis, which is kind of going to give you that sense of flow, because when you're using your strengths, you're just using what you're naturally wired for. Then if you apply that to what gives you meaning, then you get this kind of wonderful combination of flow and engagement and meaning that gives you this increase in life satisfaction. And so I think that's probably what, for me, the key insight of that whole piece of work. And so I've talked a lot, and I would like to offer a chance now for somebody, or let's have a look at the time. Let me just check the time. We've got about 5 minutes or so for some examples. And if you're willing to share, the question I'd like to ask you is just to be unmuted, if Helen, you can help me with this, if somebody would like to volunteer, and just tell us a bit about how they show up in your own work experience, where you get meaning and engagement and things like that. So we can just hear a little bit of other examples. You've heard mine.
Fantastic. So Emma's volunteered. We're looking for a couple more as well. So Emma's going to join us first, and then we'll see who else would like to join.
Fantastic. So Emma, just to remind you, this is being recorded, as Helen said. And I just wonder if you would be able to speak about your own, work situation and where you get meaning and engagement, or if they're absent at all. Chance for you to share, and I might ask you a couple of questions about that.
Yes, sure. So it's been a really tough couple of years, actually. I worked on a welfare to work program that went under. So I was kind of scrabbling and looking for work and trying to find different things to do, and found that very difficult being based down in Cornwall. So I ended up taking a entry skills level job as an admin salesperson, and on the side was trying to find some other kind of meaning, because I'm quite autistic, and I found it very difficult to have any motivation to do any of that. Because I really wasn't enjoying my job. It was very dull. It was literal data entry and emailing. And then I got contacted by a couple of colleagues that I used to work with that were looking at setting up a business where we supported other companies in developing their staff. So we kind of like really leapt into the fire and started that off in just before lockdown. Literally, we agreed to all work together about 3 days before lockdown happened. But I have to say that the lockdown came as a blessing, because we've been able to, well, me personally, been able to put so much time into it, and it is given me meaning, which in turn has helped me feel like I'm engaged with the world again. And also, because of those two things are becoming aligned, I'm getting out there more, I'm getting fitter, I'm being more creative. So I definitely needed all three well, I needed at least the meaning to give me the pleasure and the want to do anything, to feel engaged with the world.
Wow, what a fantastic example, and I'll pay you later. Brilliant, because it sounds like it's am I right in saying that the kind of combination of meaning and engagement is really, you sound happy with the way things are going for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not we're constantly looking into the world of the unknown, so I don't know what's going. So it's not like when you've got a secure job and you know exactly what's coming around the corner. But I think when you've got the right people around you working with you that, you know, that really believe in you, and you start to talk to your friends and your family, and they realize that, you know, your confidence had dropped. Well, my confidence had dropped so low because I'd lost a really well-paid, meaningful job, and kind of went back to the bottom of the career ladder again. And so I lost my confidence. So I didn't feel like I was doing anything meaningful at all. And so this has kind of happened, and yeah, it's really turned things around, but it's still scary.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Okay.
Could we hear from another person?
Yes, Nemo. Next up, we've got a couple more people who have popped their hands up. So next we've got Louise. So I'm just going to ask Louise to unmute herself now. So Louise, you should be able to unmute yourself and join us.
Yeah, I've worked on employability programs and interspersed with functional skills, and at the moment I'm kind of delivering functional skills, but I really want to get back to employability, because I think that's where my strengths lie, in supporting and coaching individuals back into work. However, before lockdown, I was actually going out to see apprentices on kind of almost one-to-one delivery of maths and English ICT. Obviously, lockdown came and it's now been online. And I'm kind of semi-struggling with the online, the lack of one-to-one communication, you know, actually, you know, being next to somebody is not the same as being online with somebody. And I'm thinking, is this meaningful? Is this realistic? Are they getting value? You know, I won't say value for money, but, you know, because obviously I like people to pass their exams and get their level 2s and move on in their careers or decide whatever they're doing. But I'm just kind of floundering a bit at the moment, kind of in this vacuum of delivering online.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, before my meaningful life was kind of seeing people move from where they were, either, you know, long-term unemployed with a number of barriers, both themselves and within their family, but overcoming those barriers and building bridges and moving forward, and then moving into sustainable employment. You know, I got, you know, that to me was my meaningful life, but at the moment I just feel as though I have no meaning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it is, I've heard it a few times. In fact, I was working with someone just yesterday and they're saying moving online has been really difficult because they like to be with people. And
yes,
I think there's a lot of people maybe going through something similar.
You know, I mean, somebody said to me the other day, I bet you're finding it really difficult because you are the typical people person. And the lack of sort of social interaction with them. I mean, I do ask questions. We do have a bit of a laugh, but it's not the same as having them next to you or in the classroom.
Yeah. And I was going to ask maybe the whole group just on the sidelines, if you've got any thoughts that you might pop into the chat box, just about, you know, you can hear, I mean, I hope this is okay, Louise, that, you know, you're sharing your story, your situation, and how it is frustrating. And at the same time, maybe there's ideas out there about what, just like sort of ways that you could look at this, or maybe try different things, just in case something's useful. So if anyone's got any thoughts, I mean, I'm just thinking, I wonder if you could just put them in the chat box.
Yeah.
See what people are thinking.
I would imagine that our groups usually are great at sharing, so I would imagine if we keep our eyes on the chat box, we'll see some. Already we've got Emma increased her social interaction where it was safe to do so, so I'm sure we'll get some more suggestions, and thanks for sharing, Louise.
Yeah. And one parting thought from me about this stuff is that even though it's frustrating, the meaning that you've shared sounds so strong, like to help people to reach their potential, to coach them to results, and even in difficult circumstances, having that can be like a North Star, you know, to work through this tough time. And I'm not saying it makes it easier, but it is a thing.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Louise. Would you like to speak to our other volunteer, Nemo?
Well, I think we've got the time. Yeah, I'm just checking what else we've got to cover, and actually one more would be fine. Yeah.
Excellent. So I've just asked her, Dahlia is going to join us. I've asked her to unmute herself, so hopefully, yeah, I can see she's joining us now.
Hi. Hello. I'm going to be really quick because I realise there's the time's an issue. I found that in the past I was doing a completely different career. I was in accounts and I was an account office manager, and noticed that the elements of my job that I enjoyed was about encouraging people to get more qualified, to achieve their potential, and to you know, get further on in their career. And so and I was also inspired by a careers advisor I'd had in the past as well, and felt like I'd like to get into that side of working. So I have been really pleased at being able to make the transition into working in employability. And I know what Louise was saying, you know, it's so good to be able to interact with people, to deal with, enable them to release their potential, deal with the barriers that they are facing. So at the moment now I'm working with people who face housing challenges. And so the fact that they're just so brave in, you know, facing those challenges and trying to make the best out of their situation, and my input into enabling them to overcome their barriers gives me meaning, and I love engaging with those people, and I find a lot of pleasure in the job that I do. I really do. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, all three examples, thank you so much, because there's such a, you know, lots of rich possibilities in there, and illustrations of some of the challenges, and also some of the ways we can actually use this stuff to, or it shows up rather, when we're in our kind of, the kind of work we're kind of born to do, if you know what I mean. And so I wanted to give you all a minute to just note down any ideas you have, maybe from what you've just heard or from the whole session so far, or so anything that's coming up that's useful for you. Just write it down on a piece of paper if you've got one, and it could be what's useful for you in your own work, and maybe for how you can use this to help with the clients if you're working with clients who are looking for work. So I'm just going to give you a minute.
So while people are writing those down, we have had some activity on the chat. So Sylvia's said that she's had a colleague that suggested meeting either in a park or a garden, which she's not had an opportunity to try, and she's been encouraged by some of the others to do so safely. to just get that level of interaction and a bit of meaning. Mike's commented that he really enjoys his own company and has been working from home on and off for years, and has been surprised that the few face-to-face meetings he has had recently over the last month have felt amazing. It's just felt wonderful to sit across a table from someone and talk. So it's enlightened him and brightened his day. So that sort of helped him to explore a side he didn't feel he was struggling with until he had the other stimulus in front of him. We've got Etheline, who said that she felt at the beginning of lockdown, she felt the same, but looked on the other side and has learnt new skills online, new skills around online interaction and delivery with students. Also connecting with others has helped her to develop creative ways of supporting clients via Zoom. That's really interesting, and sorry Nemo for taking over a little bit, but it might be really good, Etheline, if you could share some of those examples of how you've worked with clients via Zoom.
This is great stuff, and thank you for sharing those. And I actually, it's perfect timing. I know there's been a lot of information. You know, what you've just shared is rich and useful, and probably people are trying to write some stuff down as well. Let's give you a little bit of silence just for 20 seconds now to capture anything else that you want. And if you finish noting anything down, I just would like to now ask you if you could share any new ideas. This is even more stuff, but if you've got any nuggets, building on what you just heard Helen say and what your own insights are, put them in the chat box. Let's see what people have got. You know, useful ideas in these times.
So Dali has shared that it would be good to set up an area for her customers to come together, to create a space, a weekly get together to support people who are feeling isolated, which a couple of other people, Sylvia agrees that's a great idea. She catches up with her colleagues, but there's only 2 of them in the team, so extending that network would be good. Etheline has shared that her team have put on Zoom sessions around employability, as well as inviting employers to answer questions about work. That's fantastic, a good way of getting that inclusion. Emma says it's about getting a balance, started a local ladies walking, running social group. It's been a real motivator and she feels much more awake in the day. Yep, brilliant. Dahlia, Sylvia, they look like they need to catch up then. So you guys, you can exchange personal details, or if you want me to, if you pop in the chat, if you're happy for me to give you each other's emails to each other, I'm more than happy to do that. Claire says they have set up a team, set up regular coffee time chats on Teams with a fun quiz on Fridays for people to attend. I know here at the IEP, we have every other Friday, we have an informal group for our members and our fellows, and they alternate. That's worked well. Rachel, we have a weekly Zoom to support clients with employability and well-being sessions, and a fun quiz session once a month. Excellent. So those are all the comments we have in at the moment.
And it's really great to hear all those creative ideas in these times as well. And I think there's definitely something in when we come to the next topic, which is VIA, the values in action. There's this whole piece around how you use your strengths to kind of configure your work around those strengths you have. And that brings more engagement. So for example, imagine you're quite creative, but you feel frustrated because you're now having to do everything online. What we've just heard today, there's people coming up with all sorts of like Zoom cafes and quizzes and interactive stuff. So bringing your own creativity to a frustrating situation can give you that engagement. And maybe, you know, despite the difficulties, you'll find some sort of, you know, you can make a valuable contribution and get that kind of work buzz back.
What I found quite interesting from the comments we've had, Nemo, is and it doesn't surprise me knowing our members, but the meaningfulness and the engagement is all coming from that need to interact with the clients and make sure the clients are okay and not feeling isolated and getting the support they need, rather than some things for themselves. I've seen a pattern coming through there, that it's about making sure they're still offering the support and help to their customer base, which has been a real theme.
Yes, yeah, and it's such a strong driver, isn't it? I think in terms of this kind of work that we're doing of enabling people to succeed, is like we want to see that happen. It seems, and it reminds me of some of the, you know, the stuff around values, this concept of values, and how even in the most difficult circumstances, those values become like the kind of North Star to just keep going and figure out a way, which I can hear quite strongly in this network, and it's very inspiring, actually. And so I wanted to just open up the space now for questions. And if there's anyone who's got questions, we have got the space till 1, and there's probably 5 minutes I need just before we finish to share what other things are coming. So we've got a good chunk of time to take any questions, and when they're done, I'll talk to you about what's coming next. So can we go to questions, if anyone's got questions?
Right, we'll just give it a moment for people to pop those questions in. While we're waiting for that, here I will start with a question. So it's been a time of change for people, isn't it? And there's a lot of change, and it's hard to know exactly what the world's going to look like coming forward. So what would you advise for people who maybe don't really have a clear understanding of what might give them meaning and help them to engage in this new world?
Fantastic question. For me, when I'm working with meaning, with coaching, I tend to ask people to reflect on what excites them or what frustrates them. You know, anything that you get this sort of energy spike from is usually a sign that there's something important there for you. So it's exploring that, and you can look across your whole life as well and see what stories in your life have real resonance for you. If you remember examples of when you were just so alive and inspired, or at your best, or when you were, you know, dealing with the biggest challenges in your life, when you reflect on those kind of experiences, somewhere in there may well be the kind of meaning that you're talking about. And I suppose in today's context, it's really interesting how, you know, there must be lots of different possibilities you could do, and it's sort of frustrating as well because you don't know what's going on and what's going to happen in a month's time. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I think it's about checking in with yourself and what aspects of society frustrate you or inspire you.
Excellent, thank you. So we have a question from Dahlia. Are there any assessment tools that you would recommend for helping people discover their values?
Perfect question. I actually would recommend, and it's not specifically just values, but this one we're going to use next time, which is values in action, is an assessment tool that you can access freely at AuthenticHappiness.org. I use it with almost all my coaching clients now, and we're going to actually have a good look at it next time. So I would suggest, if you're interested, to come to the next webinar. And what's so great about that tool is it gives you this sort of inventory of your what's called character strengths. And that's really about, for example, I've got high love of learning. That's my number 1. So that gives me insight about what kind of work suits me. And my lowest one, number 24, happens to be self-regulation, which means that sometimes I start lots of things but don't finish them, or get a bit mixed up with what I'm doing. And so there's all sorts of, there's these 24 different character strengths that come out in a sort of sequence from their most present and alive for you to the ones that are if you like, present in their absence because they're lower down. And it's all information. You can use it in so many ways to configure your work and to learn about yourself and how to be effective. I know that's not quite the question about values. When it comes to connecting directly with values, and by values, just to be explicit, what we're talking about for me is certain drives or qualities in life or principles that we most strongly resonate with, that we feel are very important. And the words like for me, one of my values is fun. I like things to be fun. So if I'm in boring meetings, I know I'm getting frustrated. I'm turning into a sort of fidgety child. And that's because my value of fun is not being honored. So the best way I coach around values is ask people to tell me stories about when they get annoyed or when they're really excited. And when they've told me the story, I then reflect back elements in the story. Oh, so I'm wondering if you like things to be fun, for example, and they usually will go, yeah, you got it, you know, and you know you're tuning into their values. So that's a long answer, but it's a great question. Thank you for that one.
Excellent, thank you. How can you, this one comes from Emma, how can you recognize which element is missing between meaning, engagement and pleasure?
Okay, meaning, engagement. I suppose with asking questions and being curious, whether it's for ourselves or for someone else, I think, I mean, I would probably say for the engagement one, I tend to be asking people about what is it that you can do with your time that you feel so, comfortable doing, you really enjoy it, you lose yourself in it, and, find out what they say as an answer to that. And what's really interesting is, believe it or not, some people find filling in spreadsheets a flow activity. So, I mean, I find that incredible, but it's so fascinating that we have such a variety. Everyone's going to get their flow from something different. So it's really important that I, as a coach, don't project my own ideas of how it should be onto them and find out what works for them. So it's asking questions, or maybe observing them, in subtle ways, perhaps. You might be that in a conversation, I notice that they like to doodle, on a paper or something, and you suddenly start to wonder, oh, are you the sort of person who likes visuals and diagrams? And they may say, yeah, I do. And then suddenly you're finding more about them and helping them find out more about themselves. In terms of meaning, it's a bit like what I just said about exploring things that really strongly resonate for people. And sometimes, without wanting to go into the world of therapy, finding out people's life history and what significant events have come up for them in their lives, whether it's overcoming challenges in their family or in their community, can often be clues to what's really important for them and what gives them a sense of meaning. As for pleasure, I suppose it's perhaps easier to spot. I mean, it's around satisfaction and things like, practices like gratitude, mindfulness, savoring, being, because sometimes people might skip the good stuff that's going on, and I'm always looking for the problems. So sometimes it's quite nice just to try these things with people, like, so what 3 things are you grateful for at the moment? Or when something's going well, sometimes people rush over it, and you can just say, oh, that sounds like a really, exciting and positive thing. And, why not take a moment and enjoy that? And it's a fine line between telling people how to live their lives and just offering them ways of connecting more deeply with themselves and the pleasure that's in it, that's happening for them. So there's what I have to say about that question, which was a brilliant question. Thank you. These are quite hard.
Okay, we're just waiting for some more to come in. I suspect people are doing exactly what I did at the moment, and having a quick look for the authentic happiness tool, so we can all do it this afternoon. I know I will be having a look this afternoon and doing
great.
a bit of reflection. For those who are joining us for the next session, I know we're going to be looking at values in action. Would you recommend, if we did use the tool and have a look at it, to give us familiarity, or?
Yeah, that's exactly what I had hoped to do. Shall I mention that now?
That would be great.
Let me just pop on to the next bit. We'll come back to these resources, but just as we pass them, you can see there's the link to the book, the website, and the TED Talk there. Yeah, up and coming, we've got Values in Action on 23rd of September. And I would like anyone who's coming to that, if you want to get the most out of that session, have a go at the Values in Action assessment first. Print a copy out if you possible, and have that beside you for a day, because you can look at your own as we work through the methods to use this stuff. So that's and just to say a bit more about Values in Action. So you can use this to think about, if you work with clients with this, that can help your clients understand themselves better and maybe make choices about what kind of careers to go for or jobs to go for. But one of the tricks as well is, even if you're stuck in a situation, you can start to reconfigure what you do. So, I mean, I've worked with people who may be frustrated about their role, but when I discover that, for example, they're creative, and ask them, you know, how could you use your creativity more? Or if they've got high leadership, how could you use your leadership more? And suddenly they start to offer a voluntary project in the organization, and their leadership skills can suddenly come to the fore, even though they feel stuck in the role. And then they're starting to motor forward in their career, rather than feeling, oh, this job's not for me. So it's about configuring around those strengths, and then you get the flow and you get the results. So there's a lot in that workshop around just getting to know what the values in action are, but also how to use them. And some other nuances, like when they're in overdrive, and learning about that, and how they act in combination. So I don't want to give you the whole story, but there's plenty we'll be exploring in that session.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I've had a question from Dahlia. How can we add pleasure, meaning, and engagement to a role that doesn't seem ideal? Is it possible to involve these elements in any job? Great question.
I don't know for sure, and I would like to caveat this with, I am not the oracle of all knowledge, but my thought is, sometimes you might need to find it from outside of your job at times in life. I think Emma mentioned earlier on, there was a period where she was doing art on the side, and that kind of, you know, when we think about our whole life as opposed to just our work, sometimes you might be in a role where you just can't find any of the opportunities for the pleasure, meaning, and engagement, perhaps. And there's times when, okay, starting something on the side is probably a good angle to at least get that sort of fulfillment going in life. Having said that, I'm an optimist, and I think it's a challenge that would be really interesting to work on with someone about, you know, they've got none of that, none of the above. And if the first point was, okay, well, how can we find some flow? How can you find flow? It would be like I just said. It might be like, well, they say, well, I really don't like spreadsheets, but I am quite creative. So I would ask them, well, how about you get creative with your spreadsheets? And so they may start to put fancy, you know, buttons at the bottom and ways that it changes color and takes you to different places and stuff like that. And suddenly they might at least be able to enjoy that. Or if they have high love of learning, why don't you teach other people how to create spreadsheets? Even though they might not enjoy spreadsheets, they can enjoy that learning process of using their love of learning. So, you know, that configuring around your strengths could bring some life in. Meaning might be different. Although, again, I mean, it could be, imagine you're in an organization, you don't particularly like your role, but you care about the overall thing of people getting on with each other. And so you start to volunteer to chair some subgroups or something, or set up a social event on the side, a work quiz, for example. And so you're starting to bring meaning in that way. And I suppose pleasure is more around, like what we said about having nice things. So maybe you just get your desk looking nice, you know, put a plant on it and tidy it up or something. I'm just, you know, freestyling ideas here.
Yeah,
I'm sure
excellent.
that might be useful.
No, it does. It makes sense. So as I suspected, like me, some of the others were immediately having a look for the website that we've mentioned. Now, Louisa said there seems to be a lot of questionnaires on the website. Which one do we start with and then move on to? Is that something we can share in the follow-up when we send the link out to the site later, or is there something we can signpost people to now?
I'll follow up with that, but it's the one called it's about values in action, character strengths, and I don't want to go onto the website now because I'm screen sharing, but I'll send you the exact link.
Okay, and we'll get that out to everyone,
yeah.
because once this goes on YouTube later, we always send an email to everyone to let them know. So watch your inbox, everyone. Later you will get that information. Annabelle has said she's attended some of our previous webinars and she's found the Thrive daily planners from the mental wellbeing webinars have really helped her to identify positive things each day and work them into her routine. But she says she loves her job, so it's not as difficult for her personally as some other people at the moment. And she finds music helps too.
Lovely ideas.
Yes, some positive, nice music in the background. So those are the comments we have at the moment.
Oh, and just to build on that, the gratitude practices are great for bringing the pleasure in too. So, you know, maybe finishing a day with what's gone well, or even if it's been a real nightmare of a day, you know, it sounds like counterproductive, but by building in gratitude practices, it does enhance pleasure, in theory.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, that's everything we have question-wise at the moment, and perfect timing.
Bro, so I've mentioned the values in action, and then the other workshop there and webinar is your career sweet spot, and that's going to look at that combination of, you know, what is it that you love doing, what does the world need, what can you get paid for, and seeing how that all pans out, and there's tools around that. So that's kind of like bringing it together, and hopefully those will be a rich variety of tools and skills and insights that can help you individually and in your own work with clients. And the only other thing I wanted to share in terms of follow-up is I am starting a group coaching experience in November called the Career Reinvention Group. And this is a special offer where you could join that small group for a monthly coaching session over 6 months to kind of take you through a process of career evolution. So if you're interested in that, and you do get to shape the content as well, there's a lot of interactivity in terms of me designing it around what would be valuable for you. You can just email me for more info, and book by the 14th of October for a discounted place. And I think that's all I have today. So I'm not sure how to finish, but I'd like to say thank you.
Yep, carry on.
I'd like to say a big thank you to the IEP for inviting me, and for everybody's questions, comments and engagement today. Even though I've been speaking to a screen, I've felt very connected with you all, and I'm grateful for that. Excellent. Thank you. They are a lovely bunch. We do have a lovely bunch of members that attend these. So thank you very much, Nemo. I've really enjoyed that, and I'm very much looking forward to the next one. Thank you to everyone else. It's great to see you here, and thank you again for joining us during your lunch hours, which I know are becoming busier and busier as we sort of more and more of us return to the office and return to work. As I've said, we will get the YouTube channel will be uploaded with this recording later, and
I will make sure we include, when we send the email out, we include the details for all of the things that we've talked about today, including the TED Talk and the Values in Action survey questionnaire to help us do that. If you do have time, join us again next week. As I say, we are doing virtual first aid, and I will be contacting everyone to let you know what you will need to bring, because we will need some props with us next week. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be so much fun. And we have some other sessions coming up as well as Nemo's sessions. We have things around fitness, CPD through change. But the thing I forgot to mention earlier, which Scott would be miffed with me about, is we also have the IEP Digital Conference, which is coming up on the 16th and 17th of September. If you haven't already booked your place, pop over to the IEP website and go on to our events page, and it is on there. You can book it through Eventbrite. It is free to attend. We've got 4 fantastic guest speakers. We have Jo from Lightbulb Moment looking at how we can deliver learning to customers in a virtual environment. So she'll be going through all of the tools and how we might approach using them. We have Pamela Donnelly, who will be looking at how we can coach in the virtual environment our customers. And Pamela comes from a background of employability, so she understands the challenges of working with our customers and how we might approach that. So she's going to talk us around the considerations. We also have Andy Durnham from MZ, who is going to talk to us about labour market information and how we can use that to really understand where our skills are and how to help our customers. And finally, and last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Kylie Henderson joining us from the Better Health Generation, again to explore mental health in the digital era of employability support. So, and we also have 8 fantastic responders who are going to be looking at those sessions and helping us really consolidate that learning. So pop over and get those tickets if you haven't done already. Thank you again, Nemo. It's been really wonderful having you, and we look forward to seeing you on the 23rd, when we'll really explore our values in action and look at how we can use that to develop ourselves and also support our customers as well.
Fab.
Mike, and just responding to your question, because it's on there, you can't attend on the first morning as you have a customer meeting. Can you join later on? Yes, you can, and we will be recording and sharing all of the digital conference as well. So yeah, you can come to some of the sessions or all of the sessions. It's absolutely up to all of you. So fantastic. So thanks again, everybody. Goodbye, and we'll see you very soon. And you all take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.